Good evening. It's May 2nd on the Alan Osborne Show. And before I get into the local Walton stuff, I want to do what I'm going to want to do eventually anyway, and that's to cover national stuff. I was going to put some clips in for the nightly news. But I hope everybody's kind of aware of what's going on in the woke nation. Here, this presidential year is coming up, and truthfully, if you know much about me, I spent a lot of my life in the Middle East in the Department of Defense. And I turn on the TV and it looks like the fucking Middle East is in the middle of the cities and schools and the universities of this country. It ought to scare the hell out of you. You turn off the English and just throw some Muslim chants in there and look at all that garb, and all this veteran sees is the same thing I saw overseas and can't believe it's in my own country. I support the right to protest anything. But when I hear stuff like people chanting around the same type of chants, wearing the same outfits, bunch of uneducated kids, some people saying death to America and what we are these are the same little bastards that want a free education and forgiveness of their student loans. Some of them are illegal immigrants. I don't give a shit what those illegal people want. And I don't want that shit going on in our streets. I can get out there and march like anybody else, but building tent cities and slums all over parks, and that's not peaceful protest. That's destruction of public property. And it sure has nothing to do with our education system. Hell, I ain't Jewish, but if I was, damn, I wouldn't feel comfortable going anywhere. And hell, hadn't the Jewish people been haunted for about 3,000 years? Some of these people need to let it go. Most of these kids haven't got a flipping idea what the Middle East is like. And if you went out there and gave them a map and told them to point out where the Palestinians live and where the Israelis live, and to even describe the basic fight and how it goes back 3,000 years, they look at you like a millennial trying to choose which bathroom to go to. You look like Mike Atkinson trying to answer a question about local crime and all his cronies. He look at you cross-eyes like Cyclops. You don't know if he pooped his pants or he's just trying to come up with a faster answer than his cousin Clay. I'll tell you one thing that must run in the Atkinson family, and that's pontification. They get an A in that, but all the rest of it's bullshit. But going back to that national news, this is what comes when the word illegal doesn't matter. Illegal this, illegal that. Illegal has become a word the people doing the illegal stuff ain't worried about, because everything's selectively enforced. Now, I'm a conservative by nature, and I happen to be registered to the Republican Party. But, I probably believe in less laws, but the laws that are there have to be enforced fairly. I mean, what the hell? We're just not going to enforce that law this day? If you ask me, customary use was created a lot by our damn Sheriff Atkinson. When he started deciding, he didn't know how he was going to, or if he was going to, or how he would enforce the law. He should just enforce it as written, and if the court lawsuits or legislations change it, then he should enforce it that way. But a lot of that shit was powered by law enforcement being judge, jury. Law enforcement executes, legislators legislate, and judges decide guilt and innocence, and then the punishment based on the circumstances. But sometimes in Walton County, people who are causing the problems become judge and jury on the public, and then the public has to bend over and pay for it. It's the Bohica game in Walton County. Bend over. Here it comes again, taxpayers. Just 1%, we've let them all off. And just 1 more percent. Just how much? There's only 100 of them, and the feds get a bunch of them, and your kids and family and taxes and gas and food get a lot of them. But it's just 1 more. You just can't make this shit up. I mean, we're squandering in a county. It's just like the golf course issue. How many of you are so for the golf course? Do you realize the sprinkler system? I believe Tony had to give $1 million in plat fees out of District 5. That golf course is so far from District 5, it's not funny. You say it's the whole one county, but think about this. Those fees were collected in District 5, where the infrastructure is completely overloaded. Traffic, if you live in the north of the county and you ain't had to drive down 30A in the afternoon, you deserve one. I wouldn't want to do it. And that's Tony's creating. But he took that money that was desperately needed to be spent in that end of the county. He bought a fucking sprinkler system. Phony Tony. But it's good for everybody. Really, at the time, that $1 million could have probably bought a ball field down in the district that collected those fees. It doesn't make any sense. What if you took your kid to college and paid all the fees up front and they collected them and cut a check to some other college? That's basically what happened with the plat fees. And here's the kicker. Tony said he wasn't allowed to vote on it because he was conflicted. His family member owned parts of the property, but as soon as it was voted on, he didn't feel too conflicted to give away his money to fix it. Ain't that a son of a bitch? So anyway, let's get on with the show. We're going to do a series of shows about the candidates, Trey and Chuck, and the ones I think ain't got no business being there. We just need those people to do what their parents should have done, like I said, and pull out. So that's what we need out of them. But we're going to do a segment on law enforcement, and guess what? I got a stack of papers here sitting right beside me that says the sheriff's race may not be a solo event. And there ain't nothing anybody can do about that till the day it comes, huh? Won't that be a hoot? What if the sheriff had to debate me? Wouldn't that be a hoot, huh, Corey? But the other thing I'm going to cover is people go, why do you come after some people who aren't elected? You know why? Because after my 30-some years of watching the bullshit of the show, I realized that people who support these people that shouldn't be in office, they're rewarded for it. And I simply want to point out what they put out to these people who support this bullshit and how they profit from it and how everybody in their family gets a job who's on the inside. As I said, I'm for less laws, but they should all be fairly enforced. And in Walton County, which if you're new to Walton County, I'll have to describe some genealogy. There's a reason it's called Walton, because that's not law spelled backwards. And everybody in the Panhandle knows that this is the center of corruption. Nobody wants to do business here. And they see the lawyers running the show. They see the lawyers and developers in charge of all your tax money, and you got very little fucking vote. So without further ado, we're going to start covering some law enforcement. And guess who we're going to start? I'm going to show you the difference between laws for you and laws for the elected and connected. So stand by here a second. Well, surprise, surprise. If it ain't old Chief Marshal Hurley of the Defuniak Springs Police Department. Woo! Hey, who's your deputy chief? Is it some guy named Atkinson? Okay, we'll get back to that. So let's go over something. So this butt clown right here. And by the way, Hurley, I know you think you endured all those people, endured them to their heart, that you covered that shit up for Boots and you handled it the way you did, but you didn't, because you're not going anywhere. You're never going to be the sheriff in this town, and that's just how it is. And if you think otherwise, you ate the bait. So we'll go over the history of Mike Atkinson soon, but let's go over what bullshit he did to me. I got no respect for this 300 pounds of chewed fucking bubble gum that looked like somebody put a dent in his forehead. It must have, because he's lacking brain space. So let's go into what happened. Now, on January 23rd of 2024, Boots McCormick, before he quit as commissioner, he threw a hissy fit one day because he believed that Uriah Matthews was his. And I'm going to go over Boots' evaluation of Uriah Matthews. We've got his written evaluation, and you'll laugh your ass off later. But here's what happened. Uriah Matthews stuck his nose in my business when I wasn't talking to him. I was talking to Bill Fletcher and some people at a meeting. Anyway, I basically told Uriah to get the hell away from me. And I said, I ain't got anything to say to you because you're stupid. And that statement still stands today. Urine and I have nothing to talk about. He wasn't qualified to get this job, so frankly, I just don't acknowledge him as anything as sucking wind out of the taxpayer fund somehow. Anyway, back to that. Boots wasn't in the room on this break, and a lot of people were. And after the me telling Uriah to go have a fucking seat and get away from me, the deputy who was staring me down, well, he wrote it. McCoy, you fucking lied too. And you know, this is Mr. Stare Down. We've all seen him. He's one of Hope's guys. And reading his statement, he's jacked through the roof. That ain't what happened. I was talking to guys, and Uriah came up to me. You know, I'm sick of your shit. I think you're a shitty deputy, too. You sit there with your hands on your hip. We're people speaking at something, and you look like Deputy Dog, and the shit you wrote was a fucking lie. So when you see me look at you, that's what I'm thinking. There's a stands a fucking liar. Because he said that I had anything to do with the incident in that. Frankie White, a county attorney with the greasy hair, she stood up and stirred that shit up, and Boots wasn't in the room. So let's go back to what really happened, Hurley. Boots asked me to come out in the hallway, and when he did, he threatened me, and in my mind, he committed battery. And when you read the statements, I'm going to go over them. There's no condition of that, even though Hurley says there is. I'm sitting here jotting the statements. It says right here what happened. But there's nothing conditional about what Boots said. But later on, they threw in the word if. And so they took it away. But here's the thing. After the incident was over, I gave this fat dude of chewed bubble gum the benefit of the doubt, thinking maybe he's not as corrupt as the rest of the police officers in this county. But I was wrong. And I still didn't understand all the genealogy, so let me connect the dots. Boots McCormick, who's committed the supposed act in between a break in the county courthouse, I've told this guy I believe Boots is violating a judge's order and he's carrying a weapon, and he specifically is not allowed to by the judge's order. I accuse him of battery and communication of threats, and I give him some witnesses. Here's what Bubblegum Man does. He assures me he's going to do a good job. And he's nice to me when I go there. And he takes me in his office and said, I know you don't think much of us. I said, no, I came in here to give you a chance. So here's the chance. But, you know, right off the bat, I think his assistant, his deputy chief, I believe is an Atkinson. I believe he's married to Boots's aide. How about that? You think that's a conflict? That Breezy Atkinson, Boots' aide, her husband works for this man? Oh, if you're new to Walton County, you're going to have to understand genealogy because it's almost a statement of closer kin, deeper in. I don't know what they mean about it. Swap here, swap there. I don't understand what they're trying to get at. So this incident happens on 123. I make a statement. The accusations are against Boots McCormick. Uriah Matthews witnessed none of the issues that were at issue. But he's the first jackwagon that this guy goes to interview and takes a written sworn statement from him and McCoy. Well, McCoy maybe from in the hallway, but what I said to Uriah didn't have shit to do with the accusations about Boots, but Fat Boy here made it about it. Now, guess what? Now, if you were accused of the crime, do you think a cop would come to you and ask you what happened? This man never goes to Boots, and if he does, there's no documentation of it. So the person accused of the crime is not interviewed. A statement's not taken from Boots. And it says in here he watched a video where clearly what I alleged to happen, happened. So, and they wouldn't show me the video, by the way. So anyway, we flash forward, so it's January 23rd. Within days, Hurley starts calling people, and he calls Suzanne Harris, and within days he tells her that nothing's going to happen in this investigation, but he still hadn't interviewed anybody. He said the state attorney's not interested in it. Now that was by 1:31. Now according to the paperwork, he never meets with Josh Mitchell until 2:20, and he only brings what he believes to be the weakest charge in question from that the battery may not be or may not, depending on how you look at it. That's the only thing. He doesn't bring the fact that Boots was carrying a weapon against a judge's order. He doesn't tell him that Boots communicated threats. And in fact, he writes in the report that one of the witnesses, a man named Mr. Morrell, heard something, and when in fact Morrell was a witness to it. And it backed up the statements. So it took a month for this man to call 4 or 5 people, but never the accused. And no sworn statements except from an officer that I can't stand, that I think is a thug, and that's the way he's used by Mike Atkinson and the BCC. Him and Hoke and them, they're just a thug against the people from a corrupt BCC, and they're used to intimidate people like Barbara Morano, Tabitha Howard, let's see, Dan Manichero, and then he got sued for it. Remember before Boots threw his tantrum and quit, and now him and Stan are buds, and him and Clay are buds. You can't make this shit up. So Hurley, a month later, he does nothing. He tries to call me and talk to me about it, but I've already heard from somebody. And guess what he does? He calls some Fort Worth cops he knows and wants those people to tell him what kind of person I am. Well, guess what, Hurley? I'm the kind of person calling you out on this shit. So if you were looking to find out what kind of person I was instead of just investigating the law, motherfucker, you found out. Fucking disgrace. I'll tell you that right to your face, because it's the freedom of speech. I have an opinion of you that's slightly taller than dog turds and just below bullshit. Okay? So, by 2:20, he meets with the state attorney. We go to see the state attorney, and then he calls me and says nothing's going to happen. We go see the state attorney, and the state attorney explains to me that only battery was brought to him. And Suzanne and I are told that he can't make him, but he's going to give him a chance to go back through the file. He said, Josh Mitchell says, you got to give me 3 to 4 weeks. I said, okay. And Suzanne says she's going out of town. You can interview me when I get back. Suzanne never gets interviewed. And what's key about that is Suzanne told Hurley that she met with Boots, and Boots confessed to 2 of these things. Confessed. And there's an eyewitness. No sworn statement. So, finally, I write Josh Mitchell back, and Josh answers me at the state attorney's office. Have you heard anything from Hurley? So I write Hurley, and Hurley says the state attorney never gave it back to me. So, Josh, I guess Hurley's lying to you too. And so the state attorney tells me decides that I should take the violation of the judge's order by Boots to the sheriff's department. So I mail a copy to Sheriff Office of Walton County's investigation section, and I blind copy all kind of people. And now it's been another month, I believe. And today I wrote the investigations again saying, hey, what, Boots just gets away with it? This is the kind of bullshit, because even Hurley's own report stated exactly. Here's Miss Allen's arguing. I heard Alan Osborne state at least 3 times, don't touch me, I haven't done anything wrong. Well, why would I be telling McCormick, don't be touching me? Don't be trying to pin me up against the wall. These aren't my statements. That's Frankie White, an attorney. I mean, and then according to Hurley, it says exactly what I said. It says, the Walton County Board, during the McCormick, Randy Lyer said, I heard Alan tell McCormick at least 3 times, hold on, ineffective, get away from me. But Boots is still talking. The only word I could clearly hear was ass. I turned around and Boots was chest bumped. Boots stepped in front of Mr. Osborne. He goes on and on. Let's go on to some more of these. Hold on. Oh, this is good. Osborne stated that he told McCormick not to touch him, and McCormick stated that he would, quote, kick his ass bad enough to put you in the hospital. There's no if in that fucking thing. I just came down and told the state attorney months later that if there was audio, we could have heard it, if that's what he said. If y'all have got audio of it, because I've never got to hear the recording. But anyway, so this was a friends on friends plan, because what was he going to do? Oh, Glidewell's son works for him. Do you see how the Friends and Family program works in Walton County? And I tried to do this guy a solid, saying, all right, he's an elected chief. Did you know the first time that Atkinson became the chief, he was hired and then later kept in office through election? And that's a whole nother story in itself. But this is going to be our focus on law enforcement. And this is what it's going to be. We're going to take stuff that's occurred. Anybody wants these reports. No sworn statements taken from Morrell, an eyewitness. No sworn statement taken from Suzanne Harris, who was an eyewitness to a confession by the accused, and no interview on the accused. Just a background check on me. Well, guess what? I was serving my country when you were still digging for dingleberries in your diaper, son. Probably. You make me sick. So, anyway, and that's the way it was for corrupt cops. Edition 1 at the lowest level. Man, I would hate to be in Defuniak Springs and think that you can't get a fair shake. Now, what do you think would have happened to me if I'd have motioned the commissioner into the hallway, pinned them up against the wall with a chest bump, tell them, and cussed them out, and threatened them over an event that he did not see happen, breaking a judge's order and communication of threats? Do you think you or me as a citizen that they wouldn't find themselves in an orange jumpsuit looking like Gary Madison one day? Yeah, they would. And that's what's wrong. And going back to the start of my show, that's how America got there. One town at a time, where the law was decided, is this illegal or is it not illegal? It either is or it isn't. And those investigations against people of the elected and connected should be just the same as if it was me. I wasn't accused of anything. Notice Boots made no statement that I had done anything wrong. Or did he? We don't know because there's no record. You think a real... And this man teaches investigations from what I understand at the state. I'm going to look into your certification and I'm going to give them this in a complete detailed timeline of how the investigation was ran. And the evidence that you had and what you did and did not do. And I'm going to see if it matches your own course outlines for when you're an instructor, I understand. How about that, Slick? I understand training and I understand standards, and I don't believe that you met them in your task. And that's the way that was on the Alan Osborne Show on May 2nd. You can't make this shit up. Till next time.